Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Hack, and in this video you're checking out 21 great beginner tips for starting the Elder Scrolls Online in 2021. That's right, I have updated my ultimate guide from last year based on your feedback, and am now ready to present the absolute best beginner tips to get you into the game as soon as possible so you can know what you're doing and get off to a great start. If you're new to the channel, you should consider subscribing as well, because we regularly publish ESO builds and guides right here on the channel. You can also find even more helpful tips at my ESO website, hacktheminotaur.com. That being said, let's jump right into the list. Tip number 1 is after you complete the initial tutorial for ESO, you're going to have access to 3 skill points in total. Now, each class in the game also has 3 unique class skill lines, so the best thing to do right away is to place 1 skill point into each of those 3 class skill lines. That will let you unlock the first active skill in each one. Not only will this give you 3 basic abilities to use right away, but it'll also ensure that you're leveling each skill line equally, which is also important. Tip number 2 is to fast travel to one of the 3 starting zones right away. These are the zones of Bleak Rock Isle, Canarthy's Roost, and Stros Mackay. And these islands have some basic quests, some easy to defeat enemies to help you get a good feel for the game without getting overwhelmed or confused. Plus there's absolutely no world bosses, no group encounters like dolmens or harrow storms. So relatively safe and easy zones to explore right off the bat. Tip number 3 is to pick up a starting weapon skill. Now ESO has plenty of weapon skills, from bows to swords to staffs. All weapon skills are unlocked by equipping a weapon and then defeating an enemy with that weapon equipped. So decide which weapon skill you want to focus on first, and then unlock the first skill in that skill line by killing off an easy nearby enemy. Don't worry, you can always level up multiple weapon skills at once, which we'll talk about later. But right now we just want to add at least 1 weapon skill to our skill bar. You should notice a big increase in power for your character once you combine both your unique class skills with a weapon skill. Tip number 4 is to keep a food or drink buff active on your character no matter what. Now, buffs in ESO are extremely important, but one of the most important and often overlooked buffs, especially for new players, is those passive buffs that either food or drink consumables can offer you. Now, these are typically long-lasting buffs of at least an hour to 2 hours that you get by eating or drinking a consumable buff item, and these can increase your overall max attributes like health, magicka, and stamina, or they could increase your recoveries as well, or some combination of both. Pro tip here is, as a brand new player with limited gear, the best consumable buff you can get is usually a drink, because these offer stat recovery instead of just flat stats, and the more recovery you have, the more consistently you'll be able to use all of your skills to defeat enemies even quicker. Tip number 5 is to buff your experience gain, helping you to level up even faster. Now, there are 2 main sources of experience boosting consumables in ESO, that being XP scrolls and XP potions. First, it's important to understand that these 2 bonus experience modifiers do not stack with each other. They both essentially offer the same buff. Now, XP potions can be bought from or given by other players, and XP scrolls usually are obtained from the daily login rewards or as level up rewards. Now, like I said, either version is fine because they offer exactly the same buff, but try to keep one up as often as possible, especially when you know you're about to kill lots of enemies or turn in some major quests. Finally, throughout the year, there are several double XP events that happen. This gives you yet another consumable XP buff, but this one does stack. So whenever those events come around, make sure to use both the double XP bonus modifier and either a scroll or potion to maximize your total XP gain. Tip number 6 is to upgrade your skills. Now, as you gain experience in ESO, each active skill line on your character will improve from level 1 all the way to level 50. And around every 5 to 10 skill levels or so, you can expect to unlock a new ability in that skill line, which can improve your character's overall power, utility, or survivability. So what you should do at this point is, once your previous ability has maxed out in skill, which happens at around rank 4, replace that with a new ability from the same skill line. This way you're constantly improving and progressing that skill line, leveling up each skill one at a time. Now you also have the option to morph skills once they are maxed out at rank 4, but I usually recommend holding out on choosing those morphs until later on, because I prefer to level up as many skills as possible instead of sticking to just one. Tip number 7 is to unlock your armor skills. There are 3 armor skills in the game that correspond to 3 different armor types, that being light, medium, and heavy armor. Now the type of armor you choose as your main armor is going to depend on the role that you want your build to play in ESO. Characters that use magic, for example, will want light armor, while characters that use melee weapons or bows will want to focus more on medium armor, while heavy armor is typically reserved for tanking. Regardless, it is important to unlock and start to level up all 3 armor skill lines, because the passives you get through each skill line are actually pretty good for any type of build. Plus, it'll give you the flexibility to change your build later on if you want to. Now, to unlock one of the 3 armor skills in the game, all you need to do is equip 3 pieces of that armor that have the same weight. Doing this will add the skill line to your list of skills and allow you to start unlocking those powerful passives. Tip number 8 is to explore as many locations as possible and unlock them on your world map. Not only is the world of ESO amazing and beautiful to explore, but doing so also helps you level up faster. This is because as you explore new marked locations on your map, you get free experience. Obviously, this is also really important when it comes to unlocking way shrines, as well as this will give you new locations to fast travel to anytime you want. Tip number 9 is to find as many sky shards as possible. In the Elder Scrolls Online, every 3 sky shards will convert into 1 skill point, and obviously the more skill points you have, the more options you'll get to customize your character, which is incredibly important. Keep in mind also that clues for every sky shard's location can be found through the in-game journal and achievements if you need help finding the multiple sky shards hidden in each zone, or of course there are maps online or PC add-ons that will make this even easier. On to tip number 10, unlocking your passive skills. Each skill line in the game has passive skills, which once you unlock them are always turned on and can actually make your character pretty powerful, because they can do things like increase your healing, increase your armor, sustain, cost reduction, without you really having to do anything. So look for the passive abilities either in your class skill lines, your weapon skills, armor skills. Look for the ones that you think will make the most impact on your character build and unlock those first. Tip number 11 is to begin the main story quest for ESO. This quest can be found in your main faction city, and it can be started by talking to the hooded figure and eventually the benefactor that leads you on a pretty interesting main quest. I'm not going to spoil the quest objectives here, but it's well worth your time. It has a great cast of characters, a great storyline to follow, and the game just isn't the same without playing it, so I definitely recommend it. You can start the main story quest at any level, but doing so early on is probably the best because it will reward you with plenty of free skill points, as well as some extra gear that you can actually use to level up even easier. Tip number 12 is to unlock the free starter home in ESO as soon as possible. To do this, head over to the Crown Store menu and select Quest Starters, then begin the Room to Spare quest. This will send you off to talk to the innkeeper in your main faction city and basically just accept a free room. Now, why would you want to do this? Well, not only can you use this for basic storage, trophies, and whatnot, but it's also always free to fast travel back to your home even when you're not traveling using a way shrine. So no matter where you are, you can travel to your home base, then step outside to use a nearby way shrine to continue traveling anywhere else for free. Tip number 13 is to join the 3 NPC guilds in ESO, that being the Fighters Guild, the Mages Guild, and the Undaunted Guild. Each of the 3 main guilds in the game has its own series of story quests, as well as some pretty good skills and passives. So you'll definitely want to unlock these as early on as you can, and doing so is extremely easy. All you have to do is go to their respective recruiters in your main faction town and tell them you want to join. Fighters Guild and Mages Guild are easy to find. They have their own guild houses that are pretty obvious. Usually you'll find the Undaunted in like a tavern or an inn somewhere in the town as well. Just talk to all 3 quest givers, accept their basic quest, and you unlock the skill line. It's that simple. Tip number 14 is to add more weapon skills to your skill bar, but from a different weapon than you're currently using. Now, this tip may seem a little bit strange at first, especially if you've never played ESO, but basically the way it works is that most skill lines in the game level up by having at least one skill from that skill line on your active ability bar as you gain experience. So if, for example, you're using a bow with a bow ability slotted, but if I were to replace one of my other skills with, let's say, a dual wield skill, well, now I'm leveling up both my bow skill line and my dual wield skill line at the same time. You can actually level up about 6 total skill lines at the same time if you really want to maximize this trick. Check out the video in the top right corner and the description for more tips on how to best level up your skills in ESO. Tip number 15 is something that even veteran ESO players such as myself forget when starting a new character, and that's to add a Mundus Stone. In ESO, Mundus Stones give you stat bonuses in a specific area like resistances, damage, or healing, and when you're first starting the game, any bonus to stats can make a big difference. So make sure to pick up one of these free stat boosts as soon as possible. Most zones in the base game have at least 3 of them for you to find. Tip number 16 is to complete delves. Delves in ESO are basically mini dungeons that can be easily completed in just a few minutes and can be found in almost every zone in the game. Delves typically have just a few enemies in a pretty small area and a very easy boss at the end that you can usually defeat by yourself. Now, the reason why you want to find and complete delves is because each one has a sky shard to grab, and you also get a ton of bonus experience for defeating the final boss for the first time, finishing the delve and marking it off your map as completed. Tip number 17 is to upgrade your riding skills every day. Now, there are many mounts in the game, including a free horse you can get at level 10, but none of these will be faster than your normal sprinting speed until you actually train your character's riding ability. There are other riding stats you can train here as well, including riding stamina and carrying capacity, but speed is what I usually recommend doing first. There is a small cost for this, as well as a 20-hour timer per upgrade, so it's important to start training early and be consistent if you eventually want to ride faster. Tip number 18 is to read every bookshelf. Almost every bookshelf in ESO has a book you can actually interact with and read. Most of these contain some interesting stories and Elder Scrolls lore tidbits, but some actually give out a free skill increase in a specific skill line just by opening that book. This includes weapon skills, armor skills, class skill lines, and even crafting skills. Note too that you don't have to read the entire book or flip through every single page to earn that skill increase. All you have to do is interact with the bookshelf, and if a book is tied to a skill increase, you should see that pop up immediately. Tip number 19 is to update your combat and gameplay settings. Let's talk about the ability bar first. I usually switch this to always show. Same thing with the attribute bar. Resource number and percent. Combat tips, will leave those as automatic, and then ultimate number on. Your combat text you want on as well. This will show you your incoming damage, outgoing damage, your healing. And then very important, make sure to always show your buffs. This includes your self buffs and any buffs from your group, as well as debuffs on the enemy. Really, really helpful. Finally, under gameplay settings, you'll want to set up your combat cues. Those are basically the colors on the ground that signify either friendly buffs or enemy damage. I like my friendly to be green, enemy damage to be something, kind of bright so I don't miss it. You can test out all of these colors as well as the brightness here in the settings area. You want to turn on quick cast ground abilities. This is especially important for skills like Endless Hail and Caltrops. Anything you throw on the ground will be easier to cast with this turned on. Finally, make sure you turn on Prevent Attacking Innocents so you don't accidentally attack a guard or merchant or something like that. Tip number 20 is how to reset your skills, morphs, and attributes. Here at the Rededication Shrine in most major faction cities in the game, you should find a shrine similar to this where you can reset some things on your character. This is helpful if you want to, let's say, respec your build from a tank to a DPS role. You can use the attribute shrine here to change those choices. In addition to that, there should be another shrine where you can reset your skill point allocation and your morph choices. Now, chances are you will want to do this at least a few times, especially if you're brand new to the game. But choose wisely because each change you make does require some gold. Final tip on the list today is to join a player guild in ESO. This process is much easier now than it used to be in the past. Now you can browse through hundreds of potential guilds using the in-game guild finder. This system lets you browse and sort guilds by activity type, including things like trading or trials guilds or even PvP, as well as by play style, so you can browse more casual style guilds up to hardcore. Now to apply, just click on the guild that interests you and use the built-in application feature. Obviously, guilds are great for that social element, grouping up with others in an MMO. You can also use the guild chat feature to ask questions or get more help. And something that new players may miss is you can always fast travel to any of your other online guildmates for free by browsing the online roster and then choosing travel to player. All right, everybody, and with that, that's going to wrap up our list of the 21 best beginner tips for starting the Elder Scrolls Online in 2021. Hope you guys enjoyed this list and found it informative. Of course, if you did, don't forget to crush that like button. And if you have any other tips I might have missed, make sure you let me know those in the comments section below. If you're new around here, make sure you're subscribed with those notifications on so you don't miss any new uploads as they happen. I do post new builds and guides here on the channel every week, and we have a great community here. You can also check out my website, hacktheminotaur.com, for even more helpful ESO builds and guides. As always, thank you again so much for watching. I hope you're doing well, stay safe out there, and I will see you around in the next video.